Hi, today I'd like to explain to you why you should move towards thinking about your instruments as being secondary to you. I mean, all your instruments should only confirm what you already know. So let's dive in. Let's take it one at a time. The trusted SPG, the way of telling us how much gas we have left. Or is it? Dun, dun, dun. If you can look behind me, you can see this little table I've put up, and all of you certified divers can recognize that. It's probably something you learn in the very first lecture of your diving course. It's the very first question of some diving organizations. Here we can see the depth and the representative pressure at that depth, the volume in a flexible container, and the density of the air at that depth. Now, I've added two columns to help you on your way to becoming a thinking diver. I've added gas consumption. I've added bars per minute, because all these SPGs, they show us bar. And I mean, it's a bit funny because a bar is relative to the volume. So 10 bars in a 10-liter tank is a lot more gas than 10 bars in my little argon bottle. And it's a lot less gas than in a double 12. So bar is a little bit useless information if you don't relate it to the tank size you have. Because the bars will move away much slower if you have bigger volume, right? So if you're diving in a double set, your bars will drop slower. Your consumption is the same, but your container is much bigger. I think it's really funny that the 50 bar on every SPG on the market is regarded as the danger zone. Whereas in some cases it's way past dangerous, and in some cases it's more than enough gas to get you out of the water. Because it all relates to the size of your tank. Now, how can we train ourselves so we become the primary source of information and the SPG, the pressure gauge, becomes something that confirms our, guesstimate, our knowledge? Now, when we look at this one, we can see at the surface, at 1 bar, we usually we use around about 20 liters per minute. Yes, it's debatable. Some people with good fitness and experience, they might use less, maybe 15, 16 liters per minute. But hey, let's calculate with 20 liters per minute. You can adjust these numbers to your actual consumption. But 20 liters, it's a good standard. The volume of a flexible container is 1 at the surface. That's the starting point. And the density of that air is equals to 1, like what we have here around us, right? So we come to this one later on. So when we look at the volume at 10 meters, the volume is halved because the pressure has doubled. So if the pressure doubled, it needs twice the amount of gas to get to the same volume. 20 meters, 3 times the amount of gas to get to the same volume, because the volume is reduced to a third, and so on and so forth. Well, I guess you know all this stuff. Now, if we look at our gas consumption, that goes up by 20 liters for every time we descend 10 meters. 20 liters plus 40 is 60, plus 20 is 80, plus 20 is 100. So we keep adding 20 liters per minute, and that just keeps adding the volume per minute. Now, if we then divide that volume per minute with the tank size, then we get something where this makes much more sense, because then we get to bars per minute. Yes, I can see you through the screen realizing, aha, hey, I've never thought of it this way. And if you have, happy days. So if we dive at 10 liter, I hope you can read the small letters. If you dive at 10 liter at the surface, you use 2 bars per minute because you use 20 liters. 20 liters divided by 10 liters is 2 bars. So after 10 minutes at the surface, breathing from a 10-liter tank, you'd have used 20 bar. It's not that hard, right? So what do you expect your SPG would say after 10 minutes when the starting pressure was 200 bars? 180 bar. And then you look at your SPG and you see 185. And then you realize that I was right in saying that this is on the higher part. So it's a bit high. It's a bit conservative, if you like. Now, if we look at a 12-liter tank, it's a bigger volume, same consumption, it's 1.7 bar per minute. Double the tank, a double 12, is 0.8 bar. I mean, all these calculations were made with a calculator. That's why there's some discrepancies in rounding, because it is rounded up. But if we keep in mind that 1.7, now if we dive to 30 meters, the atmospheric pressure at 30 meters is 4 bar. So the density is 4 times as great. So we need 4 times as much gas. So if we say 4 times the gas in bars per minute to what I use at the surface, it's 4 times 1.7, 6.7. Or thereabouts. I mean, I'll calculate it. So if you get 4 times 1, it's 4. 4 times 7 is 2.8, so it's 6.8. But I've rounded up. It's rounding differences there. So these numbers are much more usable for us divers than say, hey, if I dive at 30 meters for 20 minutes, I've used 20 times 6.7 bar. All right, 20 times 6.7 bar, that is around about 130, 140 bar. And then you can look, hey, does that compute, right? Now, if you take the time to make these tables and just sit there and calculate and get a feeling of what's wrong and what's right, then you can start to, work with these numbers, jumble them around, see if you can create shortcuts for yourself. We all work differently when it comes to maths. So, I mean, working percentages, if that's what makes you happy, related to the 1.7 on the 12 liter, and then just half that if you dive with a double 12. I mean, I usually dive with either 80s, which is 11.1, it's close to 12 liters, or a double 12, which is 24. So I got these numbers in my head, and I usually round them up. I mean, if you look at down to 40 meters at least, if you look at the density or the pressure, because we're using 20 liters a minute average, it's almost the same. So, 2, 1.7, 3, 2.5, 4, 3.4, 5, 4.2. So it's roughly there. It's a little bit less than the surrounding pressure. So I usually, to make it quick, I go surrounding pressure minus 10%. But I'm in ballpark. And then I look at my SPG, happy days. So you can only use your time and your average depth, and then you'll relate that to whatever that works out to be in bars per minute. Okay, happy days. So that way your SPG becomes a backup device. I encourage you to make these, take out a piece of paper, write it down, calculate with it, think about it on your next dives, and use wet notes, see if you can get there. And it takes some time. Don't expect this to be that you can do these maths and it works out right from the get-go. Practices. I mean, we need to train trim, we need to train fin kicks, back kicks, we need to train our brain as well. It's the same thing. Don't expect it to work from the get-go. But invest the time, invest the effort into getting this right, and you'll be able to dive with your buddies, and you'll be able to see, and they're trim. Then there you'll be able to see, okay, they're breathing quite a bit. Their gas consumption might be X. We've been diving this depth for this long. They probably have this much gas in their tank. This is what I do sometimes on technical courses. When I've observed these guys very intensely, very focused for the last 20 minutes, and then we come up to the surface. All right, You guys have all around about 110, you might have about 100. Let's go down. And they look at their SPGs and they're looking at me, it's like, how the bloody hell do you know all that? How can you know what my gas consumption is? This is very simple math, right? I'm really not a magician when it comes to math, believe me. I can give you a contact number of my mathematicians teachers and they will tell you, Ben, he was not the sharpest knife in the block when it comes to maths. But, you know, in scuba diving, it gave me a goal to become better, and, you know, I've worked out shortcuts that help me out. Anyway, a lot to take in, a long video. I hope you guys didn't fall asleep. Comment with any comments you have, even if you have a way of calculating these things yourself, or if you have something to add, please leave it down in the comment section below. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or, you know, even better, share this with your buddies if they don't know about our channel yet. So I hope to see you out there, and you know, stay sharp, guys. See ya. Gauge. I mean, it's very, oh, I'm sorry, that's the coffee machine turning off. Bear with me for a second. Every time you hear that sound, you feel like a cup of coffee. You know what I mean? They should make an alarm or something. They say beep 5 minutes before it turns off. Anyway, I digress.